All right, let's go to the main event now, which is for the featherweight championship, as we have champion Alexander Volkanovski looking to defend his title for the first time during the second reign as a minus 145 favorite, going up against oncoming challenger Diego Lopes, who comes in at plus 125. Now, I'll obviously touch on their first fight when I get into the prediction portion of this breakdown, but let's go to the backgrounds first. Well, you got Alexander Volkanovski, looked like going down as one of the best fighters of all time, considering the streak that he was on before he ran into Islam Makhachev in a fight where he tried to have a legacy fight. He tried to get the lightweight title, went up a division, had a very close fight against Makhachev. Very, very close fight. Ended up losing a decision that night. Then he went back down to featherweight, finished Yair Rodriguez, reminded us why he was the best featherweight on the planet at the time. Then he took another short notice matchup against Islam Makhachev, got knocked out in the first round there with a head kick. He clearly wasn't in shape, clearly wasn't prepared enough to take that type of challenge on, and he paid for it dearly. Then the gameness in him, the fighter in him, put him into the cage a lot sooner than he should have against Ilia Topuria. And after having a decent first round where all three judges scored that first round in his favor, he ended up getting corralled against the cage against Topuria, and not even an elephant was going to be able to eat the shot that Volkanovski ate that put his lights out, giving the featherweight title to Topuria. But luckily for Volkanovski, around the time that he decided to finally get back into action and take the time off that he needed, Topuria decided to go up to lightweight, vacating the featherweight title and giving the opportunity for Volkanovski to go out there and fight for it once again like he did in April against Diego Lopes, and getting the win there and putting that title back around his waist. What makes Volkanovski so good is his overall game. He's a very technical and educated striker who does a great job in terms of utilizing his 71-inch reach to just keep that jab out there, keep it in his opponent's face. Moving as well. His footwork is really good. He angles off very well. He knows when to implement the leg kick as well to stay busy. And he also has a very good wrestling game. He can out-grapple his opponents if he needs to. His submission defense, we've seen all of it, right? The Brian Ortega fight where he found himself in deep submissions but never tapped because he knew the discipline and the defenses to work out of those positions, eventually getting to really good positions, getting out of those submission attempts and getting back to work. He is so well-rounded. The only thing that's really going to derail him is his durability, as we saw in the Makhachev and Topuria fights, and maybe age, as he is 37 years old now. At a certain point, the body takes over the mind, and it's not able to keep up with what the mind wants to do. Now, he's going up against 31-year-old Diego Lopes, who had a solid run to start his UFC career. Obviously fell short in his short notice UFC debut against Movsar Evloev, but after that, he was able to muster up a few finishes. Then he got that win over Dan Ige. Then he was able to get that Noche UFC win over Brian Ortega, and that led him to his first title shot against Alexander Volkanovski, where we obviously know he ended up losing on the scorecards. Then he managed to bounce back in September against Gene Silva in a very fun fight. John Silva, I should say, by the way. I keep getting mixed up. Spelling says Gene, but it's John. Anyway, had a great first round, got Silva's back, got some submission opportunities, couldn't get the finish. Momentum seemed to be shifting to Silva's side as he started to walk Lopes down and land big haymaker after big haymaker. But luckily, thanks to the durability of Lopes, he was able to eat those big shots, drag Silva into more of a war, and then eventually land a nasty spinning back elbow that eventually saw him get the finish against Silva. That was enough for the UFC to be like, you know what? Screw Lerone Murphy. Screw Movsar Evloev. Let's give Diego Lopes another title shot. So here we are with him fighting Volkanovski once again. What makes Lopes so dangerous is his very slick submission game. He's very aggressive on the mat, whether he's on his back or finds himself on his opponent's back. But he's also gained a lot of confidence in his striking game, as we've seen. And I think that's the shortcomings that we saw in the Volkanovski fight. Sure, he can knock out Sadiq Youssef and Gavin Tucker or the other guys that he was able to knock out. Pat Sabatini, I believe, was the other one. But if he can't get the knockout and he can't assert his dominance with that intimidation, things start to get a little bit iffy, right? And I think that's where we saw the hype really start to catch up to Lopes. And I think that's where we saw Volkanovski really start to expose him. Now, talking about their first fight, which took place back in April, it was the last fight for Volkanovski, and it was 2 fights to go for Diego Lopes. In the first round, Volkanovski did a great job in terms of sticking and moving, utilizing that jab, and really thwarting that aggression that Lopes was trying to implement. the second round was kind of going the same way. And Volkanovski was doing a good job in terms of, like I said, sticking and moving, but he also tried to implement a few takedown attempts and really rough Lopes up against the cage. But near the ending of that round, Lopes landed a big shot on Volkanovski that dropped Volk. But Volkanovski really had his wits still about him, so he was able to scramble well and work out of that bad position and then get back on the gas there. But it was at the end of the round, and it was the last thing that two of the judges saw. So two of those judges actually scored it in favor of Lopes. In the third round, Volkanovski got back to the same game plan and really frustrated Lopes. And then in the fourth round, similar, where Lopes had a little bit more success. He opened up a cut on Volkanovski, and I think two of the judges scored that round for Lopes as well. And then in the fifth round, even though Lopes was walking forward the entire time, it was obvious that Volkanovski was landing much more effective damage, especially with his jab and thwarting that constant forward pressure of Lopes. I believe, at the end of it, Volkanovski outstruck Lopes 158 to 63 while landing at a 61% clip. In rounds 3 and 5, Lopes only landed 24% and 23% respectively, showcasing how effective Volkanovski was with sticking and moving and making Lopes whiff at air. Lopes was getting really frustrated at the ending of that fifth round. You can see him calling Volkanovski on, pointing to the ground, but Volk's not going to fall for that stuff, and he was able to continuously land those jabs. Lopes did have a barrage of shots to end off that fight, but it was not enough to get the judges to sway that round back in his favor. So at the end of it, one judge had Lopes winning rounds 2 and 4, and then the other two judges only gave 1 round apiece to Lopes, allowing Volkanovski to win that fight 49-46 times 2, and then 48-47. This time around, maybe we see Lopes be a little bit more aggressive. Try to land that big shot on Volkanovski. He was able to hurt him in the second round. Maybe he just kind of bites the mouth guard a little bit more, eats the jab consistently a little bit more, but tries to crash the pocket so he can finally land that big shot on Volkanovski and get him out of there that way. But I believe Volkanovski's fight IQ and tactician-like skill will allow him to even find a game plan perfect and execute it here to even nullify that type of approach from Lopes. Whether it means he shoots for more takedowns, which we know his submission defense is on point, so he shouldn't have too much to worry about there, or if he looks to throw with a little bit more heat in return, rather than just sticking the jab out there to try to deter Lopes from being as aggressive as I'm kind of expecting him to be here. I may not be as confident in Volkanovski as I was in the first fight, but I still think he ends up winning this fight. I'm hoping that he, just brings that game plan again. Jab, leg kick, takedowns, disrupt the rhythm of Lopes, and continue to rinse and repeat that. Knowing the durability of Lopes, I'd be surprised if Volkanovski gets the finish here. And I think if Lopes wins, it probably comes by knockout. I think we're actually going to see some love for Lopes come in during fight week. So if you're looking to play Volkanovski, I would wait until later on in fight week. Maybe it stays around this minus 145 range. At best, maybe we start to get closer to a pick'em like we did last time, as people still love Lopes and think that he can still knock Volkanovski out. But I'm going to go with the better minute winner, the better fighter overall. He may not be as dangerous in terms of getting a finish, but he's still the better fighter overall, just as he showed back in April when these two first threw down. So I'm going to go Alexander Volkanovski and still featherweight champion, Mr. Volkanovski.